As the light of the Wayfinder subsides, you and the other Sentinels find yourselves surrounded by complete darkness. You all stumble around blindly at first, calling out to one another to get your bearings. Eventually, you think to use the light of your relics to illuminate your surroundings, only to reveal yet another abandoned Sentinel outpost. Vane questions why so many of your bases have been abandoned, to which Senna responds that Sentinel volunteers are hard to come by, and those that do join typically don't last very long. You briefly bemoan your choice of career path before Olaf calls for silence. Somewhere above you, people are screaming, prompting you and your allies to seek a way out of the darkness as quickly as possible. You find a set of stairs and quickly ascend, only to emerge in what seems to be some sort of massive arena. Vane remarks that this place must be one of the infamous Noxian fleshing pits, and Lucian quickly deduces that it must have been built on top of the Sentinel outpost. Gwyn interrupts your conversation to point out that a young woman seems to be fighting the arena below you, and to your shock, you quickly realize that her opponent is a Minotaur, an undead one. Worse still, the woman seems to be armed with nothing but a broken sword to defend herself. Vane acknowledges the grim reality of the situation, but insists that you all formulate a plan to find Isolde's keepsake first and foremost. Unfortunately, the promise of a worthy foe has already overtaken Olaf, who charges into the arena bellowing out a challenge to the Minotaur. Despite your best efforts to stop him, the Berserker has already blown your cover, forcing the Sentinels into action. As you follow Olaf into the heart of battle, Vane remarks that she's begun to see why Sentinels don't typically last very long. Following Olaf's lead, you and your allies charge into the arena. The audience falls silent while the combatants turn to look at you in surprise. The Minotaur barely has time to react before Olaf slams into her, his relic stone weapons cutting into her armor with ease. The swordswoman stares at you, baffled. She begins to inquire who you are and where you all came from, when a figure on the balcony above you cuts her off. This man, referring to himself as Draven, seems rather displeased at you having intervened during his big show. Draven quickly turns the situation around, however, asking the crowd what becomes of party crashers like yourself. In response, the crowd chants a single word over and over again: Reckoning. The swordswoman is quick to confirm your fears, that you are now a part of Draven's twisted show, and that the Reckoning is effectively a death sentence. As if on cue, the gates around the arena open as undead creatures pour into the fray, some of them with weapons still stuck in their hides. Basilisks, drakehounds, and other Noxian beasts hiss and snap at you, eager to kill. Gwyn seems mortified at the treatment of these animals, but Vane only remarks that this is typical for Noxian entertainment. On Lucian's orders, the Sentinels engage the beasts, though you are simply told to focus on keeping the Wayfinder safe. Chaos soon erupts throughout the arena, but as you look around for a decent hiding spot, you notice the swordswoman struggling on her own against an undead basilisk. Though she's clearly skilled, her runic blades seem to have little effect against the beast. It's then that you notice a pair of discarded weapons on the ground near you, a rusty sword and a broken spear. You grab one of these weapons and charge the basilisk, though your efforts only provoke the monster against you. Within moments, the beast has you pinned, but a wave of emerald magic knocks the basilisk off of you before it can land a killing blow. The swordswoman offers her hand to you, remarking that you and her are even now. Just then, you hear Gwyn calling out and follow her gaze to see tendrils of black mist creeping into the stands. Soon, the audience is beset by rays, and the onlookers once eager to end your lives are now fleeing for their own. Draven cries out in anger and indignation, claiming that this latest development wasn't part of the deal. He vanishes from the balcony, leaving you and your allies to tend to the mess instead. The gates of the arena open once again as Noxian soldiers flood into the fray, trying desperately to subdue the undead. Taking advantage of the chaos, the swordswoman urges you to follow her through an open passageway. You and your allies are quick to follow, trusting that this stranger can lead you to safety. Unfortunately, you soon discover that the path ahead has been blocked off by rubble. Olaf readies himself to tear through the blockade, but Vayne interrupts and points to a nearby set of stairs. The black mist seems to be flowing upwards into the arena, indicating that whatever it seeks is somewhere above you. Senna confirms that one of his soul's keepsakes must be somewhere nearby, but the swordswoman cuts in to inquire what Senna's even talking about. The Sentinels seem uncertain how to respond at first, so the swordswoman agrees to take a few steps back and introduces herself as Riven. Though grateful for your aid, Riven inquires why you saved her back in the arena, to which Vayne responds that it was entirely coincidental thanks to Olaf's reckless actions. Lucian interrupts and insists that you should all get moving again, telling Riven that she's free to go wherever she desires. Before Riven can offer a response, she's cut off by a scream from upstairs, a scream that you deduce belongs to the master of the arena, Draven. The Sentinels quickly race up the stairs with Riven in tow, following the black mist into what seems like some manner of trophy room. In the center, you see Draven held tightly in the clutches of a living shadow, and behind him, a small figure stands clutching a bejeweled wine cup. Draven loudly protests this indignation, but finds himself unable to escape the shadow's grasp. You address the small figure, who seems to be some kind of ruined yordle, and ask her who she is. The yordle introduces herself as Vex, but dismisses your other inquiries entirely, claiming that she's only here for the wine cup. As she raises it, the cup begins to resonate with Senna and Gwen, just like the mirror and the comb from before. Gwen exclaims that the cup must be another keepsake, though Vex clarifies that Viego is calling these relics fetters. You feel your heart skip a beat as the yordle utters the name of the ruined king. Just then, Draven interrupts, now even more furious at having apparently been forgotten about entirely. Vex promptly loses patience with her captive and orders her shadow to tighten its grip. Suddenly, the black mist in the chamber grows more abundant, wrapping around Draven as he cries out in pain. Moments later, to your horror, Draven emerges free of the shadow's grasp. The executioner has taken on a new, ghastly form, as a familiar-looking crown now adorns his head. Draven's anger and indignation are replaced by utter glee at the power now coursing through him. Axes in hand, the executioner now looks over your party, welcoming any and all challengers to prove their mettle against him. Draven steps closer, conjuring spinning blades from the mist around him. He mocks you, daring someone to step up and face him. Riven is aghast at the sight, though Vayne only now seems to notice that the swordswoman was with you the entire time. You quickly notice that Vex has vanished, but once again, Draven grows annoyed when attention seems to shift away from him. Without warning, Draven chucks his spinning axes at you, forcing everyone to take cover. Gwen, Senna, and Lucian dodge to one direction, while you, Vayne, and Riven dodge to the other. Olaf, however, is sent tumbling back down the stairs behind you by the sheer force of the attack. You call out to your allies to see if everyone is okay, but Vayne seems more concerned with the fact that Draven has thrown away his weapons. She fires off several bolts of light from her wrist-mounted crossbow, but the effort only seems to amuse Draven further. From the mist around him, the Executioner summons 2 more spinning axes, using one to deflect Vane's shots. Senna takes note of the obvious numbers advantage and orders the Sentinels to surround their foe. But this, too, barely phases Draven at all. After feigning dismay, Draven hurls an axe at Senna, forcing her to use her cannon as a shield. The axe ricochets off and Draven moves to catch it, chucking his other axe at Gwen. She, too, narrowly manages to deflect the blade with her scissors. Lucian and Vane open fire, only for Draven to block their shots with his first axe, then grab the second as it returns to him. He hurls both weapons at the remaining 2 Sentinels, striking Lucian's shoulder and knocking the larger crossbow from Vane's grasp. Though you are worried for your allies, you can't help but be somewhat impressed with Draven's showmanship. Your comments quickly draw the Executioner's attention to you, as he casually deflects another shot from Senna. Suddenly, one of Draven's whirring blades is hurtling through the air toward your head, and for a moment, your death seems all but certain. Just before Draven's axe can strike you, however, another axe flies in from the side to deflect it, this one made of relic stone. You and Draven look to the stairs in surprise to see Olaf standing in the entryway, marking that Draven isn't the only one present who can hurl an axe. With his other weapons still in hand, the Berserker charges into the fray once more, rejoining the fight to assist his fellow Sentinels in bringing the Executioner down. As you watch on, Riven speaks up behind you, asking why you don't join in the fight as well. You explain that your relic isn't made for combat, and that your lack of skills would only make you a hindrance. After musing on this for a moment, Riven directs your attention to an ominous-looking box on one of the display stands, asking if you would be willing to help her retrieve it. In return, she'll use the box's contents to help your allies in your stead. Though skeptical, you realize that the Sentinels are now forced to contend with raids manifesting from the mist, in addition to Draven's seemingly endless supply of axes. Determined to make yourself useful, you agree to Riven's terms, and charge with her into the chaos in the hopes of retrieving the mysterious locked box. With Riven by your side, you make your way across the chamber, narrowly evading the grasping hands of the raids as you move. Riven does her best to keep the monsters off of you, even though her runic sword can do little more than slow the undead down. You once again inquire on the nature of the box, but Riven doesn't answer. Instead, she leaps between you and a particularly large wraith on your left, stopping its claws with her blade. Riven urges you onward as she fends off the undead on your behalf, giving you an opening to rush for the box. The box is roughly as large as your torso and surprisingly heavy, but you muster the strength to lift it from its stand. Just then, Draven calls out to you unexpectedly, and you turn just in time for one of his axes to strike the box, knocking it from your grasp. You tumble to the ground as Draven chides you for touching his trophy, preparing to throw another axe to finish you off. In that moment, Riven leaps at him from behind, only to be snatched out of the air and thrown to the ground by another spectral claw. Draven admonishes Riven for resorting to cheap tactics, claiming that such tricks have no place in his show. Riven climbs to her feet, the rune on her sword glowing brighter. Draven chides her again, calling Riven a traitor and reminding her that a broken sword won't help her against him. In response, Riven corrects Draven on 2 points: that Noxus betrayed itself, and that what is broken can be reforged. Suddenly, several metal shards explode out of the box, converging on Riven's broken blade. To your amazement, the runic sword reassembles itself, lighting up the darkness around Riven with emerald light. Riven charges Draven, batting aside his axes with her reformed sword. Her movements tell of someone with years of combat experience, and even the executioner's fancy footwork can't keep him beyond the reach of Riven's sword for long. Soon enough, Draven finds himself backed up against a wall by his opponent. Draven's composure falters as he bemoans Riven's attempts to steal his spotlight. Riven responds that Draven's show has now ended, blasting him through the wall with another burst of magic so powerful, it shatters the blade all over again, sending the broken shards flying. You watch in amazement as Draven is sent plummeting into the wraith-filled arena below, while the mist in the room starts to fade in his absence. You and the other Sentinels quickly converge on Riven, praising her for such an impressive display. She, however, feels no accomplishment from this, only lamenting the fact that she can never seem to escape conflict, no matter how often she tries to retire her sword. Olaf and Senna insist that her skills would make her a worthy sentinel, as well as a worthy adversary. For once, even Vayne seems to agree with this sentiment. Unfortunately, Riven is still uncertain. She tells you all that her arrival in the arena was no accident, that she's done things she isn't proud of, and that a lot of people justifiably want her dead. Saddened by her story, Gwen asks Riven where she plans to go next, though even Riven seems unsure of how to answer. Sensing an opportunity, you interject to reassure Riven, telling her that she'll be welcomed in the Sentinels whatever her past may be, and that the past is irrelevant when the future of the world is at risk. Taken aback by your words, Riven seems to contemplate the idea, and Senna remarks that it would be safer to think the matter over somewhere absent of the undead. You raise the Wayfinder to transport everyone back to Sentinel headquarters, allowing Riven to accompany you. Sometime later, Gwen emerges from the vault, remarking that carving such a peculiar relic weapon was no small feat, but that she's rather proud of her latest work. Moments later, Riven follows her, adorned in full Sentinel attire and carrying an oddly shaped relic stone blade. Riven remarks that the whole affair still seems unreal, but that it also feels right to her for reasons she can't describe. Lucian reassures Riven that she is, in fact, a Sentinel now, that you'll all have her back if she returns the favor. Riven wipes a single tear from her eye in an effort to compose herself, then asks what their next mission will be. In response, Senna suggests that everyone get some rest and take some time to nurse their wounds before setting out again. Her mission now is clearer than ever, to find the fetters of Isolde scattered across Runeterra before Viego, and put an end to this worldwide heroism.